Thank you, Mr. Wang, and for your very kind words of introduction, and also thank you and for your kind invitation. It is indeed a great honor for me to join this distinguished panelist and also to share some of my thought with all those very distinguished panels. Given we're a little bit of late already, so in my roughly 5 minutes time slots, I will focus on one thing. Because the topic for this session is about multinationalism at the crossroads, so it's really the challenge and opportunities. I think the most challenge for the multinationalism we're facing today is obviously combating the COVID-19 and the pandemics. But it's also provide a huge opportunity for us to move forward on the global public health system. So we will be able to fight this virus pandemic issues now, but also put ourselves in a better position in the future when those things come back once again. Now, before that, I would like to mention one thing. I think all our panelists, everyone experienced the 2008 financial crisis. After 12 years, when we look back, when we see what financial sector is getting better and resilient and healthy and stronger, I think everybody will agree with me, it's a banking sector. Actually, compared with 12 years ago, the global banking sector is in a much better position with more capital, high capital ratios, and the more liquidity in terms of share to assets and a better structure of liquidity, more long-term, more deposit, and less short-term things. Why that? Because the crisis started from the banking sectors. And the banking sector was hurt and beat badly. And afterwards, the world put a lot of efforts on reform the new regulatory framework on banking sector, request more capitals, request better liquidity structures, and also we set up the GFISs, global systemic important financial institutes concepts that gives them a special sort of regulatory guidance. So the banking sector now is indeed is really getting better than 2008. So what will happen after this COVID-19 pandemic crisis? I think a public health sector should be and will be better because we are not in a good position, and we should change the kind of situation for good. So I would like to just point 3-4 things I think are key issues for us to move forward, and also emphasize why we build a global public health system need a new multinationalism, need a global efforts. First, I think it's become ever clear, and we are in a sort of a half open, half closed system. Half open, that means we're reopen the economy. Half closed, we're still combating with virus, which is very difficult and challenging periods. Because we still have more than 8 million people infected, and the 400,000 people died because disease, and we have very high plateaus, and the virus move like a wave, from one area to another area, now moving into more emerging market, which is a structure shift. So in that particular situation, I think everyone need to build an agile, I call it TTTT system. The TTTT means testing, tracing, tracking, and treatment. Because we need to position ourselves when things happen, the local authority can quickly respond to the rising of the virus and deal with the most effective way. I think that's become very important. As we experienced in Beijing, as you all heard, we had a small rising of virus cases, and in a farming market and around that. But with this TTT system, use the AR and the big data technology, we'll be able to quickly identify 300,000 people visited this farm market in the past 20 days, and then get them tested. Then we found roughly around 300 infected cases. So we'll be able to send them to the hospital. So we'll be able to cut the linkage between those individual cases to the community spreads out. So I think that's very important. I think that this type of things will happen, and in almost all the countries today, in many places, we observe in US, in Texas, in Florida, we observe this in Brazil, in Russia, in India. I think it's absolutely important to build a system at this day when we also facing the challenge of reopening the economy, which require global cooperation. Why that? Because we need to share the most common meaningful practice. We need to share the knowledge about the modern technology, which is also very important and part of this whole game. And we need the global working together to understand the standard, the norm, and the system, and how the system can govern us by the local authority and also linked with a global network. The second issue is, obviously this crisis tells us we are not in a good position in the public health system, because in terms of facilities, in terms of hospital, in terms of bed, in terms of particularly our fever clinic networks, we're not prepared for really this type of scale, the global crisis. So it's absolutely important to use this opportunity to rebuild the global public health system, from hospital to clinic to fever detective small network rebuilding, from nursing training, from medical equipment and the storage and a capacity increase. This also requires global cooperations, because we need the world work together and have the common norm and help to move the equipment, move the training things and around the place. The third, obviously, is very urgently needed, is on the research and the manufacturing on the special medicine to treat this COVID-19, and also on the vaccine. There are more than 100 teams working on the researches on the vaccines with very different stages. And China have 5 teams in the second phase testings and type of processing already. But we really need to getting the world work together to speed up the process, to cutting the cost, particularly with private sector, with all the scientists, all the labs working together to speed up. Because so far, I don't think we'll be able to vaccines in the next 9 to 12 months, and in terms of manufacturing. But the whole world really cannot waiting for another 12 to 18 months. The third issue is also important. When the pandemics come, we all realize we don't have enough medical equipment in storage. And we also realize that the supply chain doesn't work, the trade flow doesn't work. So in that sense, I think it's absolutely important to getting the medical equipment supply chain back to work and to make sure we have a proper trade policy and framework for global medical equipment and materials. I'll give you a very simple example. The ventilator machine is really urgently needed. China only accounts 20% of global market shares, but everybody come to China ask for the machine. This machine have 15,000 parts, involving 114 companies in manufacturing across 14 countries. So if you want to expand the capacity, you need those 14 countries from China, South Korea to Swiss to US, and all sit down, and all those 114 companies sit down to talk. Otherwise, we will not be able to increase the capacity. I think it's also important for the medical supplies and medical equipment. We need to have a free trade policy when those products across the board should trade with zero tariff, with a fast and a speed express and pass, with a very simple, easy customer process to make sure the medical equipment were moving across the board easily and effectively, which obviously need a global cooperation and need a multinational efforts. The fifth issue is, I think the most concern today is we are concerned the pandemic will gradually move to low-income country, particularly in Africa. And Africa had the weak public health systems and the weak economic foundations. And we observed the economic growth is slowing down dramatically. We observed fragility in financial system as well already. So I think it's important at this moment, the world should work together to support the low-income country from medical equipment, from rebuilding system to combat this COVID-19, and also help them to restore the economic activities and restore the financial stability as well, which obviously need a global cooperation, need a multinational efforts. So all those things, I listed 5 things I call the rebuild the future public health system, need a multinational efforts and need a multinational corporations, which is very urgently needed today, and which is absolutely important for the future. Which also involving some institutes like IMF and the World Bank reform, because they need more resource to prepare for the crisis. And for example, IMF proposed a 500 billion SDR and issuing new, but was not successfully passed. So I think those things also should be part of the global efforts as well. China has been publicly announced will welcome all the global corporations, particularly in those areas, to share the practical knowledges, to support with the equipment and the medical materials. And China also announced when vaccines be invented and made it, and China will make it become the global public goods. China also supported with more than 100 countries with different medical equipment and committed billions to WHO. But we need more. We need all the countries working together. I think the UN should play key and a very important role in this area, because after this crisis, I do believe crisis will pass. We need a better global public health system. We need to take action now. We need multinational cooperation. Thank you very much.